So, Emil, I wanted to pivot a little bit. We talk a lot about AI, and that's not because this is the AI show, but if you talk about news and tech, then you are, by definition, the AI show right now, because that's where all the interesting stuff is happening. You're a quite experienced investor. How do you think, as an investor, about AI and how it affects your investment thesis, your investment decisions? And, if a founder is thinking about this and trying to understand how investors are thinking about potentially their company and their approach, like, what would your advice be?
Well, let's at least try to simplify the answer to that question. It's a rough simplification and say, like, okay, there's companies that are AI native, so to speak, meaning because of the advancement in LLMs, these companies now have a reason to exist or something to build on that wouldn't have been possible before that, right? Now, let's call that AI native. And then let's say there's actually a company now that, because of AI, can do something faster, better, or cheaper than they were doing it before. So category one has been where there's been a lot of valuation, inflation, excitement, and a lot of competition is starting to enter, and there's way more uncertainty. Like, are the foundation model companies going to actually subsume all the value, or are they going to have like an application like ecosystem that's going to thrive or not, right? That
Mm,
question
mm,
is still being debated. And then you have these like crazy fast blowups like Inflection AI that raised $1 billion and very quickly decided, like, actually, this is not going to work standalone. Let's sell to Microsoft. We've had very quick blowups in the sector
mm.
and very quick markups. So this sector is very uncertain. So I do think we're entering into the second part of the early phase of the AI investment in the AI native investment cycle, where as so many companies are being started or trying to get a piece of this, like I can't tell you how many AI like legal companies I've seen, AI healthcare,
Mm.
AI customer care propping up out of nowhere. So you're going to now start to see, well, how are you different than the other five that I've just seen talking about healthcare AI being a $100 billion company, and how are you going to get 5% of that, right? So you're starting to see the subsectors getting crowded in those spaces. Not the LLM, not like I need to raise $10 billion. I'm XAI, I'm OpenAI, I'm
Mm.
Anthropic. I'm talking about other companies down here. So I do think defensibility, differentiation is now an important question for the venture capital community and the AI native ecosystem in a way that is real. And if I were a founder thinking about, like, oh my God, I got to get in the AI, like, okay, great. Now we're post sort of, I'll just throw money at anything AI. Now we're starting to get into, like, well, what part of AI and why are you different? And how much money do you need? And what, blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah.
that's kind of my current state of the union.
And are you investing in those sorts of companies? I think that's an interesting thing. Like you mentioned, yes, forget about five. We're talking about 50, 500 AI, healthcare AI, legal discovery, AI, customer support startups happening, right? Like, are you investing in some of these? Like, is it actually possible for these companies to differentiate themselves from this vast amount of competition?
I mean, I'm an advisor to Perplexity. I think they have a differentiated product approach. I like a few of them, but I've been very picky because I'm not a VC. When I invest, it's like my money. I'm like, I don't, spray and pray. So because I'm like intellectually not settled on the answers in this space yet, I haven't been deploying tons of capital yet.
From an investor point of view, it is so difficult to make these calls. When it's such a crowded space, what you know is there will probably be a couple of big winners, but everybody else is going to get crushed along the way. You've got a large cohort and only a very small number of possible winners in the space. And so as an investor, I'm pretty small time, but I have a lot of trouble investing in those sorts of companies because it's nearly impossible to differentiate yourself in a robust way at the moment. I think if you're a founder, Emil, like, your advice is spot on. So first of all, if you're in one of these crowded spaces, think to yourself, can I niche down and really own a part of this space and build some sort of defensibility around a subset? Or perhaps consider going into a less crowded space. And I think this is sort of when you talk about AI native, I guess the obvious comparison here is like to mobile native. And of course, you were at Uber from very early on. I think that's a great example of a mobile native startup that couldn't exist until we had phones with GPS on them. But the first wave of mobile native, it was the really obvious things, right? And it's like, if you think, okay, we've got this new technology, what can we do that's really obvious? Everyone's going to converge on the same things. And then it's going to be really hard to win. The second wave, of which I would argue Uber is a part, is like, okay, we understand this technology in more depth and we're applying innovative thinking to explore solutions that simply couldn't exist before. but you're still starting from the point of view of like, not, oh, we're a mobile native company, how can we use mobile? But like, what's a problem we're trying to solve? And mobile enables new possibilities. So I guess I'd really encourage startups who are excited by AI and LLMs not to let that excitement carry you away to just the most obvious solution, and really to sort of think more about customers and problems, and take, the standard startup advice around really understanding your customers and finding a niche and building defensibility. I don't think a new technology like this changes the laws of startup gravity, right? And I think it's easy to think, oh, okay, now I can just, create a simple wrapper that adds a lot of value. But then if you can, everyone else can too. And I think that's the problem.